Check this out. This is a custom white oak vanity. We're gonna throw 2 sinks on the top there. If you wanna see how I built this, watch this video. I'll show you step by step how I made it, how I do that joinery, and especially how I get this finish on there that is safe for water. Check it out. Alright, welcome back to Crafting Floor. Today we are going to take this white oak, break it down, and turn it into a bathroom vanity. Not just any vanity, but a vanity that is accessible for a handicapped person. A friend of mine's dad is coming home from rehab, going to be in a wheelchair, going to need to be able to get in and out of the bathroom and use the sink, obviously. So we're going to take this white oak. We got 8-quarter white oak. We're going to break this down, mill it up, get that all squared away from the legs. And then we got some 4-quarter white oak we're going to use for the top. And put a drawer in there and make the whole piece look nice and beefy, strong, have that accessibility underneath for the wheelchair. So we're going to start by breaking this down. When you're using rough sawn, you want to cut it to a manageable size and start the milling process from there. So I need to create 4 legs. And the legs are going to be just under 3 feet tall. So I'm going to take these 12-foot pieces, break them down into 6 foot, and then be able to make everything squared away from there. So use a jigsaw because you're not working with a straight line. I'll pull tape on it. 6 feet. Again, we're going to be a little shy of 3 feet. So we should have those couple extra inches to be good. So you extend your lines. Again, these don't have to be perfectly straight because they're going to get milled up from here. And that's why we're using the jigsaw, because you don't have to worry about the blade getting pinched and everything. Jigsaw. Okay, so we got that done. We need to flatten some sides out. So we will start joiner, get ourselves a straight edge, and we'll work our way through planer. It's a whole big long process, but I'll show you how it works. We're going to cut in and jump over to our sponsor, Basecamp Dust Mask. They sent me this dust mask, asking if I'd do a little review for it, and honestly, I'm not a big fan of masks. I don't like to wear them. My wife gets on me all the time about, hey, you need to make sure you do that, blah, 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 blah. I know, I need to. So she was super excited about this. I gave it a little test run. I gotta say, this is one of the more comfortable masks that I've actually worn. The little piece on the nose makes it stay right on top of your nose. It's not constantly sliding down or riding up. That was a big thing that I hated when it gets up, by your eyes. You're constantly fidgeting with it. The flexible strap that goes over the head makes it super easy to get on. Simple little Velcro in the back. Big fan of that. Very easy to use, and it's comfortable. The material is super comfortable. I did see on there it's also machine washable, which is good. Like I said, this is Florida. It's like 100 degrees, and it poured in the middle of the day today. Just standard Florida weather. So I'm constantly sweating in this, as I'm sweating right now. Again, welcome to Florida. So being able to wash this and then just replace the filter on the inside, super nice. So they may actually get me to wear a mask a little bit more. My wife will be happy about that. Appreciate Basecamp for sending me this dust mask. Let's jump back to the video. Okay, so we've got our pieces broken down into 6-foot sections, which are easier to manage. Now we're going to run it through the joiner to get it nice and flat on one end. When I'm doing this, I'm flipping it back and forth, changing which side faces the fence. So if my fence is off by a little bit, not perfectly 90, it'll get canceled out by switching it back and forth. Alright, so we've got this piece jointed this side, pretty straight. Now, my joiner is not that big. I just have your typical benchtop joiner. So, in order to get this face flat, I'm going to use the planer. But if I just put this thing straight into the planer, it's probably not going to work out evenly because it's rough cut on both sides. I don't have a straight edge to work with. What I am going to do is take this sheet of plywood that I ripped down, but attach this to one side of this white oak, and then that way I have a flat piece on the bottom, and I will get a flat piece on the top. Once it's all done, I can flip it over, plane that other side so that I then have two flat faces. Now, you can attach it a couple of different ways. I'm going to go ahead and just screw it in because these pieces are going to end up getting cut down and glued together anyways. So I'll just make sure if there is still holes visible, that those holes face inside, and I don't have to worry about that. The other way would be to use the glue tape and CA glue trick. That would work just fine. You just need to keep it from sliding back and forth. So attach a flat piece on the bottom. That's going to give you a flat surface for it to ride on, and it'll give you a flat surface on top. All right, so you can see how I've got it on the plywood, giving us a little bit of a sled here to run it through a flat bottom like I was mentioning. I'm working my way down to get a flat surface. I don't want to try to take off too much at once. This is just a little lunchbox planer, but it worked out pretty good. And while I had the planer out, I went ahead and gave myself a fresh face on all of the quarter or three-quarter material as well. Now we're going to rip those pieces where we have straight edges on both sides. We'll get those glued up. I did that off camera, and that way that'll be our countertop portion of the vanity. Now I'm trying to cut down those 8-quarter white oak pieces, cut them in half. I get the first one pretty smooth. My track is not quite long enough, and that comes back to bite. See right there, I had a little bit of a jump. It's pinching on the back there. So I try to go get something to, kind of wedge in there to allow the blade to run, and the track slipped. See right here, I noticed that it's no longer a straight line. I did not cut a straight line. So I ended up cutting in half, and I just had to bring those pieces down to 3 3/4 rather than the 4 inches that I was planning originally. And you can see here now I've got them, getting them glued up. So it's not the end of the world, just not exactly how I planned it. Should have clamped those things down. Would have made it a little bit easier, but get them glued up. I run them through a joiner again later to get them flat on all sides. Okay, so we have the 4 legs that we're going to use. And again, this is for a guy in a wheelchair, so we need to make sure that it's nice and spread out and there's plenty of room for him to get his wheelchair under this table. With the design that the client wants, they're looking for kind of that look where you have the top part of the legs kind of show through, and then the countertop of the table is kind of cut around those. So what we're going to do is we're going to trim those pieces out, kind of create some rabbits there, and I'm going to make sure that I leave it a little proud because I can always shave it down a little bit. I'll show you a little router jig that I've seen on some other YouTube channels that works great for that. So I know that my countertop right there is 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to go ahead and do about an inch depth for that thing to sit on. We'll get these pieces cut out, and then that way the countertop, we can trace that and make sure we get that piece on there. So we're going to give it that extra 1/4 of an inch. We'll have this sit on the inside. So this face will go. I want to leave about I'm going to leave this piece. So we'll trace that line around. And by shading this in here, what that does is it is basically telling myself, hey, this is what needs to go. Make sure that that part is cut. Transfer that line over again. Okay, so I'm setting up a scrap piece here in order to get my piece off of the fence. That way the blade will reach all the way down. And then I didn't even realize this for a while, but this is part of the saw here. This is what saw is this? The DW708. This has a built-in little stopper that you can adjust for when you don't want to cut all the way through, which obviously right now we don't. So I can adjust it. And so now I've got to stop. This will keep me from cutting all the way through. And I can sit here and make that nice clean pass on there, and then I'll come back and cut more, as much out of it as I can with the miter saw. Alright, you can see me running that blade through there. That stop allows it to not drive or not cut all the way through, which is what we're going for. And by pulling it off the fence, I get the full depth of the blade, the entire length of my piece, which is what I want. See, some of the skips from the planer is why some of the pieces are just falling off, whereas others I have to clean up with the chisel later and do these extra cuts. All you do is run the blade through there to make it really thin pieces. You see they break off. Then come back here with the chisel. The chisel just helps me get a nice flat surface there. It's tedious little work, but it's important work to get a nice flat surface because you want the glue to bond to the countertop correctly. See here, I'm laying everything out, clamping it in place just so that I make sure I have it how I want it to end up, being flush on both ends. And when I have that, then I can grab my speed square and make sure I get a nice sharp pencil. So I'm sharpening my pencil there. The reason for that is I want that line to be as close to where it's going to end up as possible. If I have a fat pencil that's dull, it's going to give me a mark in the wrong spot. This right here, I'm adding the apron. The apron is just going to help tie everything together. I decided to use biscuits here just to make sure everything's lined up nicely, kind of keep it in place while it all glues up. Getting it glued up here is pretty simple. Add the biscuits, make sure I'm lined up, throw some glue on there. You see I dry fit it first. Simple enough. Then comes the glue. Make sure you spread that glue out. I'm trying not to have too much squeeze out. The inside I'm not terribly worried about because it isn't going to be visible from the standard view. It's the outside, and obviously the outside is going to get sanded pretty well anyways. So make sure that you line it up right, and then do the other side. There's two sides to get done. I'm going to show you how to apply hardwood edge banding with no clamps, and it'd be done in just a matter of seconds. No nails, clamps, just glue. Step one, add your glue, but leave 3 spots. Leave 3 spots empty. I like to leave either end and the middle. Smooth the glue out. Take some CA glue and add big dollops to those 3 spots. Take your hardwood edge banding, using white oak,
Hit it with the activator. Always cut your banding oversized so that you don't have to stress about lining it up perfect. Just as long as it's on there. Clean up and squeeze out. There you go. Hardwood edge banding done in a matter of seconds. All you gotta do is trim it flush. Good to go.
Little router jig. If you follow me on Instagram, which you should, at crafted_in_Florida, you would see that I did put this reel out a couple weeks ago when I was putting this project together, and it took off. This was a pretty popular reel. Very simple little jig to flatten a surface. Just take that top off, screw the wood onto the top, and then put the top back on your router with a nice surfacing bit.
Finish!
Alright, there it is, a beautiful white oak vanity. This piece really turned out nice. I like the Rubio monocoat. We did the 5% smoke, and it fits beautifully with that white oak. You put it on there and let it set up. It's a fantastic look. Really brings out some of that grain, gives you kind of that slightly whitewashed, a little bit of gray, but you still have that strong brown from the white oak. It's a good look. And then we added the total boat. I didn't get that on camera, but I did add the total boat clear coat on top. Just because it's a vanity, it's going to get a lot of water on it, so that'll help just seal everything up a little bit more, especially because we have those end grains sticking up on the top there. But it's a real nice piece. We're going to get this over to the customer today. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment. I do builds like this all the time. Between this and my custom cabinets, I have custom pieces that are available for sale on my website. And if you're interested in having something built for you, let me know. Reach out. craftedinflorida.com. There'll be a link in the description below, and we can get something set up just for you, and I'll ship it to you. And that way you can put that custom piece in your home. Thanks for watching Crafted in Florida.